Hello Breakfast Club, welcome to Monday with Got That Funk. There's going to be another video on this channel today as well. It might have already come out by the time you've seen this, from Sirius Mined. He'll be wrapping up his round robin topic of talking about the generation gap and communication between the generations and what we can do and what is just ingrained and so forth. And I will be addressing that topic even though Joe won't be able to respond to me because I'm sure he's already in the process of making his response video to everyone else. But before I get to that, last time I was on the Breakfast Club was for the round robin discussion about necrophilia, which was brought up by JJ Talks. And when JJ did her wrap-up video, she did mention that she was disappointed in and felt a little bit offended by some of her other Breakfast Clubbers, and whether or not I was one of those people, I can see how some of the comments I made might mean that I was. And therefore, I feel I owe JJ an apology, and whilst I could do that privately, I would prefer to do it publicly. And the reason for that is because I think it's important sometimes to basically show people how to apologize properly. I hate to sound so fucking condescending, but it's like when you're raising kids. I've got two kids who are close in age. I got custody of my kids when they were 3 years old and 2 years old. And I raised them up myself for the most part until they were adults. And of course, when you got kids that are close in age, they're going to bicker. And, stuff happens when you're not in view. And they'll each blame the other for what went wrong. Or, one of them will whack the other one or whatever. And you got to say, look, someone's got to apologize to the other one here, basically. And the worst thing you can get from a kid is, "I'm sorry," and they think that's an apology. That's not an apology. That's, can I go now, please? I'll say what's expected of me. I don't really feel any regret or remorse. I'm not actually sorry. I just want this to end. That's what that means. Pretty condensed in just 2 words, "I'm sorry," but if that's the extent of an apology, I don't think it means a goddamn thing. And I raise my kids to apologize properly, and by that I mean, if my son hit my daughter, for example, or vice versa, really, but whichever way it worked out, I'd make them say, not just say "I'm sorry," but also acknowledge that they shouldn't have done it. And they wouldn't want it done to them, so they're sorry. And I think that's important. Now, JJ's offense probably wasn't really all that serious, but the fact is there's 3 kinds of people in this world, as far as I'm concerned. There's people that I deliberately want to offend. There's people who I don't really want to offend, but if I accidentally offend them, I won't really consider it too much of a grievance. And there's people who I actively don't want to offend, and virtually everybody that I like fits into that category. And the thing is, like, many people who watch the Breakfast Club might already know this, but when I started this channel back in November of 2015, JJ Talks was the first person I invited onto the Breakfast Club. And JJ, as you must know, that's because I take you seriously as an individual. And the last thing I would want is for you to think that my flippancy in my necrophilia video indicated some lack of respect towards you or even toward the topic. The topic for me is kind of uncomfortable, and this is where the apology gets serious, because this is where I explain basically why I behaved the way I behaved. If it offended you, I'm definitely very sorry. That certainly wasn't my intention. And in the comments to your wrap-up video, Chris the Asperger guy did mention that he didn't think that I was intending to offend you and I was just joking around. And whilst that's true, and that would suffice if you were someone I didn't know very well or someone I didn't like or someone whose opinion I didn't care about, I might let it go at, well, I didn't mean it and I'm sorry. But the fact is, I really don't want to offend you. I've got so much respect for how you present yourself and who you seem to be to me. The way you come across on YouTube and on Facebook, I like you. I think you're pretty cool. And from that point of view, I actively don't want to offend you. For me to offend you, I would do something to avoid offending you normally. So if I accidentally offend you, to me that's more of a grievance. And it means I really should be more thoughtful, I suppose, in the way that I present my disagreements. Now, one of the things about my flippancy in that video was because for me to really do the topic justice, JJ, I would have had to take it a different direction. And on the day, I wasn't really in the right place for that. But I mean, for me to do that topic justice, I would have to, among other things, try to put myself into the head of a necrophiliac and just try and figure it out. And I think sort of doing that verbally, openly, might accidentally reveal stuff about just, you know, the way my mind works, basically. You know, I think, you know, when you talk about dark stuff, it can accidentally come out in a way which can be easily misunderstood, or yeah, basically easily misunderstood. And the internet never forgets, and I think I was just a little bit afraid to go there, and so I tried to blow it off a little bit. As far as the joke at the beginning of my video about you trolling the Breakfast Club, don't even. You had to know that was a joke, really. I mean, come on. At the end of the day, I don't think, like I say, I took the subject seriously, and I certainly take you seriously, for sure. But for me, like I say, the topic was a little bit uncomfortable, and I just thought it was kind of funny, my intro, really. It was totally a gag. And I kind of thought, frankly, that it was going to appeal to your sense of humor, because you've got a sort of combination of droll and what's the other word? Acerbic, which is kind of a weird combination, but you've got a combination of that going on, which I really appreciate in your sense of humor. And JJ, you've got to admit that many, many times you think you're obviously joking, and the other people just don't get it. I don't think you didn't get it. I think that you actually took me seriously when I wasn't really being serious, and if that's the case, I do apologize for saying so, because that wasn't serious at all. Anyway, no harm done, hopefully, no hard feelings for sure, and I absolutely would be gutted if I lost you again on the Breakfast Club, so please don't go or think that you're not valued here, because you definitely are. That's an apology. Right, I also wanted to address briefly the subject from Sirius Mined about the generation gaps, because I think I've got something to add there as well. I've personally experienced the ageism from both directions. Now, when I was growing up, I was raised and had drilled into my head that I would be an adult at the age of 18, and that I better have my bags packed on the night before my birthday, because I'd be out. And as an adult, I'd be responsible for myself in the world. And this was drilled into my head from a very, very young age. So imagine my surprise when I turned 18. I had already moved out of the house before that. But imagine my surprise when I turned 18 and people still treated me like a kid, even though I was technically an adult. I was really offended and aggravated, and in some cases, depending on the adults in question, really bent out of shape by the fact that, hang on a minute, you know, I'm an adult now, and you're still treating me exactly the same as you always did. You don't take me seriously, you know, you condescend to me, whatever, and it just used to wind me the fuck up. And by the time I was 19, I'd had enough of it, and I remember the day it happened. I was washing my Corvette, and I was thinking about my boss, actually, at work, and how pissed off I was because he was such a condescending prick. And I'm like, man, when I grow up, I am fucking never, ever gonna fucking talk down to younger adults like that. Because, like, even though I was an adult at that time, I felt like, you know, when I'm the age of people's parents, you know, when I'm talking to young adults and have kids that same sort of age, you know, that's what I'm talking about. I just knew I was never, but I decided at the age of 19 to start then. And, you know, I basically have always treated people 16 and up as if they're in charge of their own mind. They know what they're talking about and who they are and what they want out of life, and I take them seriously on that level. Obviously, with age comes experience, and with experience comes wisdom and temperament and all sorts of other good stuff, which sometimes can be lacking in the youth. But I suppose, very privileged and a little bit unusual in the fact that my entire circle of friends is of a different generation to me. My roommates are millennials. All my closest friends are millennials. And this is an accident of circumstance, which is unique to me, because when I lived in Cornwall, I had my body piercing studio for 12 years, and it was my privilege to watch an entire generation grow up in that town. And a lot of those people were my customers, who I became very well acquainted with, and a lot of those people have then since moved to London, just like me. And so there's actually like a little community of ex-Cornish people up here, all within sort of 5 miles of where I'm sitting. So I actually have a circle of friends from Cornwall here in London, and as well as by extension friends of theirs who are here in London who are also millennials. And you know, I do experience the ageism. I mean, like I say, when I was 19, 20, I really experienced it from the older generation. They weren't taking me seriously as an adult, and you know, as an adult, I take it from the younger generation who think that I can't relate to them, and you know, they look at me with some trepidation as, you know, why are you here? You know, you're too old to be in this room with all these young people, sort of thing, that kind of thing. So, you know, I'm not ignorant of these dynamics, and I don't need to apologize to anybody for my friendships or explain them. My attitude is, you know, life's too short, and if people value one another and have things in common, you really don't need to look at the color of their skin or check their fucking ID. As long as they're adults and treating you with respect and honesty and kindness, I don't see really why there's an issue. And that's how I'm going to conclude this video. I think the age gap is only as wide as people make it. Individual people make it. Culturally, is an accumulation of all those individual choices, and so it would take an awful lot of individual choices to choose to try to overlook some of the prejudices that different age groups have towards one another, whether those prejudices are justified or not. And just remember that, you know, we are all equal human beings. You know, our life has an equal value regardless of how much time you've spent going around the sun. I want to thank you for watching this video. I look forward to a vigorous comment section down below. Tomorrow, Sister Danger is finally back to the Breakfast Club after being very busy with her work, and she's going to be bringing up a new round-robin topic, and I'm looking forward to that very much because she did miss her chance. And after that session of round-robin, I think we'll wrap it up for a while here on the Breakfast Club and get back to doing sort of, you know, whatever anyone wants to talk about on the day, sort of a thing. Anyway, until next time, may all your ups and downs be ups. Thanks.